going to go work with this team. This is going to be awesome. And, so I just want to learn and I want to make this field better. And that's the only way that you're going to do it is if everybody can work together and teach each other things. And because there's no experts, as far as I'm concerned, there's no experts in this field. And
oh no, I mean, an expert would require like a degree and a learned knowledge of something that's definitive. And
somebody can go get a degree and never been out there to investigate. I mean, people need to realize. I mean, even if you have been investigating for 40 years and you're so good on it, you could still learn something because everything you're learning new all the time. It's called research.
I would say that's probably like the biggest thing that throws people off with us is when we do these events. And I think they see that Marie and I are so humble and we take a step back instead of trying to like control everything. And they're like, wait a second, I wasn't expecting for the fact that you would actually listen to my thoughts or my opinions. And it's like, well, how would we ever going to learn if we don't listen? You know what I mean? So that's one thing they notice about us very quickly when they haven't met us before. And they're like, what the heck is wrong with you guys? I thought you guys were going to be jerks. You know what I mean? And it's like not even remotely the case.
No, you don't have to be a jerk and be a success in what you do. And,
exactly. Amen to that.
So, but yeah, I mean, in fact, my wife put in the chat room, she wanted to know, do you have fans that follow you home?
I can tell you that we live in a smaller city in Arizona, and we used to do a lot of work in the city that we live in. So with that, there's a lot of people that know who we are within the city we live. And sometimes we get very awkward messages on social media platforms saying, I just saw you and your family in like the market store or whatever, or we just saw you at Walmart or whatever. And their intent is probably good, but when we get the message, it's kind of like, oh my God, like that's really weird. We get things like that.
It's weird because they'll tell us exactly what's on our vehicle. And it's like,
it gets a little scary.
Yeah, it's like, gets a little scary. Like, oh, and they'll even do it while we're driving down the street. Oh, we've seen you driving on the I-10, right past, the 101 or something. And I'm like,
like that's really weird. And then the thing that it gets really weird about some of these things is that I get a little tripped out because I did 10 years law enforcement. I worked for the Maricopa County Jail with Sheriff Gerald Pyle, considered one of the toughest sheriffs at the time in all of America. But he, with that, I didn't have very many fans at the job that I had. So with me getting all the notoriety from the TV that I was doing, I had to leave that job essentially. So I remember when a show aired on Sci-Fi, Paranormal Witness. It's the episode entitled "The Jail," and I discussed what happened to me as I worked at one of the actual jails that were super active, super haunted location. And how that affected my life and my family. That same night that it aired, there was literally someone standing out inside in front of our house, like glaring into our window.
They were on the sidewalk, so we couldn't really say nothing to them. But it's like they were glaring in our window, and we're like,
Yes, you had to deal with that. And we've had some, and then we have the crazies that the religious fanatics we had in the city that we live in. We hosted a particular event that a religious group felt that we were doing demonic worship, and they assembled an entire prayer squad to come out, circle the building the entire time we were there. And when they were there, they kept saying that they were praying for us. And I kept thanking them because I followed the same God that they follow. So I was like, well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And they thought that we were being, jerks about it. And in reality, we were like, well, thank you. I don't know why you have to walk around in circles doing it. But we had protests. We've had, stuff like that happen to where.
The only thing I will creep out, and it really gets, and that's when Mama Bear comes out, is I do have a 17-year-old son. He's 17 now. When we actually got on Haunted Case Files season 2, people started reaching out to our son by message on his phone. And because on ours is probably blocked or we are full, whatever, they were reaching out to my son about us. Don't go through my son. That's the wrong thing to do. Don't mess with Mama Baby.
Exactly.
Well, most of it's been really positive. It's been really positive experiences. More just the love that we've had has made us very humble and just really appreciative. we go to some of these events, and some in California where some of our really good friends are. It's like a family reunion when we go there.
But we have to crack up a lot of it to just laughter and everything. We were at a one of these cons, and somebody she had too many drinks, and she sat there and said she knew what Jay's like, and I'm like, okay, being his wife, I should totally take that in a wrong way, but I totally just laughed it off.
Funny if she was listening. Yeah, we were doing Phoenix Comic-Con out here, and they get 100,000 people at this convention, and we get a room with 200 seats. It's filled with 200 seats, every one that we do, and there's 100 people at the door waiting to get in, and it's a big crowd we get, and this gal, she's a really big fan of ours, and she, I think, had a little too much drink, but I remember asking her like a question, and she screamed out, "I know what Jay's saliva tastes like." And my heart about fell to my feet, and I said, "Oh God, Marie's gonna kill this lady." And this lady's just drunk, and she never did nothing. I didn't do nothing. And like later on, she came up and she apologized and stuff, but it was
she never apologized. She's just like,
apologized.
Yeah, her friend apologized. Yeah. But I met her before. I mean, she just goes out to a lot of our things. She really loves our work and everything. So I'm not going to sit there and hold it. I mean, you know what? That's something that you have to deal with. I get called Ghost Girl, especially when I go into our bank. I'm like, oh, it's a ghost girl. And I'm like, oh, God.
Or the nail salon.
Or the nail salon.
Or the hair salon.
I get called Ghost Girl all the time. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
No, it's cool. I mean, it's like, I mean, and we're never like, when people are like, oh, I saw you or something, it's like you could have just came up and said hi, and I would have shaken your hand, probably even given you a hug, and if you, like whatever, we would have probably had a conversation. It's not like I'm untouchable or anything like that. I would never be that way, no matter how much our success or notoriety grew. Just not me, So it is weird though to have some of that stuff happen to us.
We're just so normal. I mean, when we're out,
we're normal.
Well, not really. We call each other the Addams family. I mean, we're seriously the Addams family.
But as far as like we're a normal family,
Yeah,
like
but we tried to be normal. How about that? But when we're out, I mean, we don't think of ourselves as anything else. I mean, so
we're just us. So it's weird. I mean, it's like I said, it's very humbling, but it's definitely strange at times.
Well, that's cool. You were talking about you were being a ghost girl at the bank. Well, I'm a butcher.
Yeah.
And they call me the paranormal butcher at work.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, my gosh. That's cool,
people
actually.
Come in. They'll come in and say, "Is the paranormal butcher here?" And then they go back in the back and get me. I'm actually the market manager, and they'll go back in the back and get me. I come out and I'm looking around, and there's 5 or 6 people standing there wanting to question me about a recent investigation that we put on Facebook or something like that. And so, I guess that's local love, I guess. But
yeah, absolutely, man. That's great, though. That's got to be cool.
Paranormal butcher, I probably could have lived without, but what it is what it is, right? I mean,
yeah, it is what it is, I guess, right?
Anytime I see you now, I'm still gonna say #paranormal butcher.
Well, that'll be okay. I was gonna ask you a while ago when we were talking about how it affected you guys. So, and you kind of answered me a little bit how it affects your family as far as your boys. How do they feel about you being on TV, and do they like that idea?
Our youngest son has loved it. Till this day, anywhere he goes out, he tells us, he's like, "Dad, Mom, I'm going to own this. This is going to be my business, okay, Mom, Dad? This is all mine one day. When you guys get too old and you can't do anything, this is all mine." And we're looking at him like, okay. But, I mean, he does. This school, it's really, I guess, a little bit awkward. He's really into the ROTC military stuff in his school. So, but I will say a lot of them are like, he gets dumb. He honestly thinks we're rich. I will say that.
I don't know where he
got that from. But I mean, I'm like, and everybody in the school thinks we're like this rich, because everybody thinks Mom and Brandon's parents can donate everything.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
well, I just found them on Travel Channel last night. They must have some money.
You could donate the whole school stuff for him. Like, huh? So I mean,
but that's Brandon, because Brandon goes around telling everyone that my mom and dad are famous, which
he's
not coasting to doing that. But he's very proud of his mom and dad.
Yeah,
and he's definitely he loves it. Honestly,
yeah,
he loves it more than
I
do.
think we he's always knew of it, but I sheltered Brandon a lot. Would never let him be part of it until he got to a certain age. We started bringing him to like events that were not bad or anything. That were just, okay, hauntings and stuff like that. We'd start bringing him with that. Never let him out. We talked to him about everything, telling him what he needs to do and all that kind of stuff.
He was like what, like 5?
Yeah, I think he was like 5. I've always said. Another thing, Jay and I don't use protection. Paranormal protection on anything, but with my kids I have. And I always tell people this is one thing I always tell family when we go out there doing residential homes. People think, oh yeah, crystals and sage and all this stuff, really good for other people, but to be honest with you, I feel my faith is the number one thing I need.
I'm allergic to sage, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, my faith is the number one thing I need. And I'm a mom, so if a stranger is going to come up and try to touch my son, you bet I'm going to stand there and I'm going to get him off, and he ain't going to go near my son. So it's the same thing with the spirit world. I don't allow nothing to be in my son to mess with my son. I hold myself very firm around that with my children. With Brandon getting into the paranormal and being 17, he knows more about it. He knows the what can happen now a little bit more. He knows how far he's not supposed to go, where I'm sort of letting him find his own path in it a little bit more now. But it wasn't until probably like a couple months ago I started letting this happen. Our autistic son is a little bit different. He's 22. It was always been different with him. Just mentally he wasn't able to understand it all. Like we said, Ghost Adventures assisted us a lot with him. With between them helping us, getting that doctor to assist us, we have amazing family and team members that helped us with our son. Stephen does really good now. Don't get me wrong; he has his moments. He's more able to control it, and say, even though he has mental illness and everything and autism, he's able to say, "I don't want you to mess with me. Leave me alone." And he knows.
He's very gifted in seeing spirit as well. He's very in tune to that. So he definitely does hear very audio, much so in tune with the spirit realm. But he's definitely learned how to kind of push that away. And he'll just say, well, it's just a voice, though. It was just a voice and stuff like that. He'll say, there's
sometimes we have to re-talk to him a couple times where maybe it's like, okay, Mom, it really is a voice. It's nothing, blah, blah, and we have to sort of repeat it a couple times. And we have to sit there and, help him and, but it's nothing like it used to be.
Before he was running out of the house screaming, because of the stuff he was experiencing, So, I mean, it's definitely dramatically improved for sure.
Yeah. And then my oldest son, I have a 24-year-old son that lives up in Michigan, and he owns a home and everything. He honestly just stays out of it. he's like, good job. I think he thinks we're crazy. He believes us. He totally has believed Jay ever since Jay came into our life and everything, but he just never really got into it. He's just like, I'll stay away from it. That's your thing. I don't want to really be part of it. So he's always been supportive. He just stays away from it.
Well, that's great that you have kids that will do that. There's a couple of our kids are like, y'all are nuts. Something hits you on top of the head. And then I have one that just says, okay, that's not for me, Dad. No, that's just not for me.
Right.
And then we have a daughter that is, she just recently went on an investigation with us, and she loves every minute of it. She's trying to get her husband to join our group and that type of thing. And we went in. She came up to me while we were on the investigation, and I'm telling on her a little bit. she says, "Daddy, can you take me in?" And take you in where? I was setting up equipment at the time, and